My name is Guy Franklin. I'm a Talent Acquisition Business Partner for SAS. Why are we here? We're here to tell you in around half an hour or so about our recent graduate selection assessment centre that we ran and share some insights that we hope you'll find useful and relevant in your career search, whether that's now or in the near future. We're really trying to get ourselves over the fence and sit on your side of things. Understand the challenges you face, but share some insights in terms of what we look for when we assess graduates and entry-level roles into SAS. So myself and the team will walk through some of the findings and share, as I say, some insights. We will at the end have an opportunity for questions and answers. So if you do want us to expand on anything, then feel free to ask those questions. Sorry, do you want to grab a seat?
Yeah. Thank you.
It's all right?
That's it, yeah, it's full now.
You sure?
That's it.
Okay. In terms of what we'll cover, just to recap for those who just joined us. So I'll run through a quick introduction to SAS, who we are, what we do. Then we'll move on to look at the selection centre itself. So we'll look at it from two perspectives. Our own perspective, and my colleague Craig will share our experiences in terms of what we look for, to hopefully give you that insight as to how you should prepare for an assessment centre, what you can expect, as well as the interview piece as well. And then we have a colleague, Ubaid, who actually joined us in September. He went through that selection centre. So he's going to share his thoughts around what he found, and what he prepared, and ultimately how he got into SAS. So hopefully, again, you'll find that useful. We'll also then look at video profiles. So these are on the rise. More and more companies and universities are using these for admissions and for their selection centres. So we're just going to give you, my colleague will give you an overview of video, how we're using video, how other companies are using video, and how you need to think about positioning yourself should you be required to take a video. Final thing, Mark Stoddart, who is the head of talent acquisition at SAS, he's the chap with the grey hair there, you can tell, he will be talking to you around your story. So how do you position yourself in a very competitive landscape in terms of graduate careers, entry-level careers? How do you stand out from the crowd and make yourself as attractive as possible to an employer, whether it be SAS or partners that we have out there or in the wider world? And we'll finish up, as I say, with a question and answer. So I thought, given that we're talking a lot about video today, I thought I'd start with a quick video introduction to SAS. You may have already seen it outside. Apologies, they stole our thunder, but we'll run this anyway, and then we'll carry on from there. Okay. So that's SAS. Not sure if any of you know, but historically SAS stands for Statistical Analysis System, not easy to say. In terms of us as a business, we're a global business. We're established in 1976 in the US, employ just over 13,500 people worldwide, across 400 countries, and 400 offices in 55 countries, with revenues of 2.87 billion. We were recently voted, in fact last month, the number 2 place to work in the world. So that's SAS, that's who we are. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Craig, who's going to talk you through a recent selection centre and give you the insight from our perspective in terms of what we look for in graduates. Okay, thank you.
And I was hoping to share with you a little bit of detail about our assessment centre and our selection process, particularly on a graduate type of level. So first of all, what I did, that was liaise with the universities that host relevant courses, similar courses, perhaps what we're looking for. Now, ultimately, this is all part of the interview process and gives hiring managers the opportunity to select the right people for their teams. So from organisation to organisation, that may differ, and obviously depending on the type of role, again, it might differ. So I'll just give you a little bit of detail about what we went through and share that with you, and hopefully give you an insight from our side, so you can sort of see what recruiters or hiring managers might be looking for. So as I said, we liaise with the universities. We put adverts on career parts or career sections of the websites, and jobs will be posted on there to give yourselves, other students, the opportunity to apply for roles that we're hosting. The one that we did this year generated over 150 applications for us, so it's quite a process to get through them all. We look at job boards, so Monster and JobSite, which I'm sure you'll all have heard of. And interestingly, 2 out of the 3 students that we hired this year came from searches on LinkedIn. So do any of you have LinkedIn profiles already? Okay, good. Well, I think that's certainly an important factor. It's quite a strong recruitment tool, and certainly a large part of our search was to have a look at LinkedIn profiles and make sure you're highlighting your experience and your course and that sort of thing. So from our side, we then look at the applications that come in. As I said, 150 is quite a lot of applications to go through. We'll work with the hiring manager to assess which candidates are most relevant for those roles. And it's our job as a recruitment team or an HR function to have the initial conversations with those individuals. And typically you will go through, I suppose, a telephone interview with regards to finding out your aspirations, understanding a little bit about your course, and ultimately finding out what's important to you and whether that organisation, us in this instance, it can match what your aspirations are, ultimately. So as I said, typically they're done on the telephone, so it's quite an important part of the process. So working with the recruiters is an important phase. As I said, it all makes up part of the interview process. So that first point of contact is still quite an important factor, because they'll ultimately be the ones that invite you to an assessment centre or a selection centre, or put you forward to a hiring manager. So what we're looking for, and I think a key part from your point of view to understand better, is what we look for. Of course, the university course is going to be an important factor. I think it's fair to say at your stages of your career that sometimes experience in a professional capacity isn't perhaps too broad. So the university course is a key thing. Understanding your aspirations, understanding what your ambition is, ultimately is going to be an important thing. Characteristics in terms of personality is also important, so make sure that you're sort of fully open and yourself when you do get the chance to have those initial telephone interviews. So on the back of those, and depending on the outcome of those telephone interviews or initial screens, that we invite candidates to a selection centre, which I suppose is my job to tell you a little bit more about what we did. And it's made up of a variety of things, and you may have experienced some already and may know what the sort of format of these days are. But they're typically made up of group tasks, group assessments, some tests, perhaps psychometric tests. I guess depending on the role, there may be some technical tests as well. And then there's usually an opportunity to interview with the hiring manager and perhaps somebody from the HR team. And it's important in those instances to demonstrate to the hiring manager in the interview part what your aspirations are. And at the same time, Mark will allude to it a little bit later, but understand about the company and understand about the job as well, because you're assessing from both sides. It's got to be a decision based on you know, your point of view as well, and whether you're making the right decision and that company's the right one for you. In terms of the group tasks, this year's one was an analytical role that we had a vacancy for. So we chose 4 group tasks held in the morning, and we did 2 of the tests were analytical, and there was 5 people. We invited 20 people to the day, and 5 people in each team or group, and they were asked to work together to try and get an outcome, to try and get an answer of a particular test that was put in front of them. So the competencies that we were looking for in that particular instance was assessing analytics, and not only that, communication, how people interact with one another, and ultimately understanding an instruction that's put in front of somebody. In addition to that, I said there's sometimes tests, and I sort of mentioned before that really the job that's on offer will sort of dictate what the actual assessments involve and how they differ. I've got some slides. I can see a few of you looking at it, but this is the one that we hosted this year, and it shows a few people. It shows the SAS offices in Marlow and sort of coming together in that respect. So ours was a full day. It's quite a big investment for a company. We had 10 assessors on board, so they're, I suppose, sacrificing a day out of their normal working week to come and assess individuals. And it's not only, I suppose, looking at an individual on the basis of one role. These assessment centres and looking for graduates are really, although it sounds like a little bit of a cliche, looking for the leaders of the company within, you know, perhaps the next 10 years or so. So it's a good investment from the company, and it's worthwhile taking that. And it's obviously a good investment for individuals like yourselves to come and spend that time with us as well. Just in terms of the final thing I say, we invited 20 people on board. We didn't really have a quota in terms of the amount of jobs that we had. We were sort of open, and from the 20 actually hired 3 people from it. And they came from different means and different areas. Ubaid has kindly agreed to join us and share his story. He recently came through it and started with us in September. So I'd like to invite him just to come up and tell you a little bit about his story. And then we'll go into videos and that sort of thing a little bit later.
So hi there, my name's Ubaid. I'm a new graduate analyst at SAS, been there for about 3 months. I have a BSc in Economics at City University London, not too far from here, and a Master's from Warwick Business School in Business Analytics. So Craig told you a bit about, you know, the selection process and the team exercises, and I guess I'll tell you a bit about it from a personal perspective. So essentially, you know, there were 4 team exercises, different assessors assessing each one. You know, at the end of the day, we're looking at how well you work within a team. So, you know, it's really about how you can evaluate your idea against someone else's and, you know, move forward. Like, I think a lot of people kind of stick to their guns in assessment centers and, you know, they don't want to, they think their idea is the best, everyone needs to choose my idea. But, you know, just evaluate your idea and see which one's best and move forward. Then we had a lunch, which was very nice at the canteen. You know, you get a gourmet chef on site, and it's like, I think £1.60 for a gourmet meal. So I know students don't really get the nicest meals, so that could be quite cool. So yeah, we have, then I had a final, an interview with the head of analytics, Laurie Miles. Very smart guy, if you get to meet him. He's got a PhD from Oxford. And and a woman from HR, and it was kind of like questions like, how would you explain a statistical technique to your grandma? Or how would you, because if you can explain it in simple terms, then you can explain it to a client in simple terms. And then it was the normal questions like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or, what things do you hate, for example? And then then I was luckily invited to the final round, and it was kind of like similar sorts of questions, but more in depth. So they would really probe your knowledge and make sure you knew what you were talking about. So yeah, that's a bit about the selection process. In terms of working at SAS, it's awesome. That's not an overstatement or anything. Everyone's very supportive. I think, coming from a university environment where you're very relaxed, you got all your friends around you, and then you go to a more corporate environment, and it's a bit like, how do I act? How do I communicate with people who are, say, 40, 50 years old in a respectful manner? And, they really help you with that. They really help you integrate into the team. Everyone's very friendly, enthusiastic, and keen. I think those are the major qualities. I think, if I, say, mention a technique or an operational research method and you're not aware of it, as long as you're passionate about learning it and you're very enthusiastic and keen, and show that in your interview, that's all you really need, I guess. For example, you can see I'm not the best at presenting. I do get a bit nervous. But that's something I'm working on with my mentor. I'm presenting something to him weekly, generally improving my soft skills. So yeah, it's a great place to work. Here are some of the pictures that we get to walk around these grounds at lunchtime. There's a nice river where people go kayaking. It's generally an awesome place to work. So I hope you all apply, and hopefully see you in the assessment center. And it's one of the best decisions I made. So hopefully, thank you.
Okay, hi everybody. So video interviewing is being used by more and more companies. We're using it at SAS as like a first stage interview. So for us, there's some stats there for you. So for us, it speeds up the process. It gives us an idea about you, not just from your CV. And it builds a picture of you. We look at lots of CVs every single day. But with the video, we can see you as well. So for you guys, it's an amazing opportunity to sell yourself. So basically, I've got some tips. Is that one?
Yeah.
I'm not very good with technology. So video tips. We've got some tips for you. So preparation. Look at the company you're going to be interviewing for. Understand what they're doing and who their clients are. Professional. Be professional. It is an interview. This is your first foot in the door with a company. Communicate. Speak clearly. Don't rumble like this. And relevant. Stick to relevant answers to the questions so that you're clear and concise. So, I've prepared a couple of videos, and I wonder which one got me the job. That one? Yep. I have to ask. Don't laugh.
Why do I want to work for SAS, and what do I have to offer? I feel that SAS would be a great company to work for, as they have some strong values and have won some prestigious awards, such as the Sunday Times Best Places to Work. SAS is the leader in business analytics and is the largest independent vendor in the BI market. And as a recruiter, this will provide me with a good story and proposition when talking to candidates. In terms of what I have to offer SAS, I have 15 years recruitment experience working across different sectors, but predominantly in the IT and software space. I have recruited for all different levels, from catering assistants through to technical architects and sales directors. I am flexible and adaptable and have an excellent understanding of the recruitment lifecycle, from sourcing and headhunting candidates to negotiating office, onboarding and working with agencies. I am a supportive team member and build good relationships with clients and candidates alike. I'm very excited about this opportunity at SAS and feel it will be a great place to be. Thank you.
Video number 1.
Why do I want to join SAS, and what can I bring to SAS? I've seen SAS. SAS is a nice place to work. Nice restaurant. Good firework parties. I've done recruitment for a long time. I've recruited lots of people in lots of jobs, in lots of companies. So I think that will make me do a good job at SAS. Thank you.
So can you guess which one got me the job? Hopefully the first one. So all I would say to you, if you come across this as a task, is prepare and think about what you're going to say. Now I shall hand over to Mark Stoddart, who is going to tell you how to stand out.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I need to put this on. And hopefully I've got one or two things I can share with you guys that will help you both prepare and get the position that you really want. So I've spent many years putting selection centres together, hiring grads. I look after talent acquisition within SAS. And ultimately it's our responsibility to make sure we're hiring the most talented people for our business. So the interview, why do we interview? Because statistically, as you probably know, it's not the most effective method of actually aligning talented people to positions. The challenge we have is that it's still considered one of the most effective ways of doing it. So video is becoming more and more important, and I would urge you to practice with video. It really is becoming very important, and often used before the selection centres for many large organisations. So the interview process from our point of view, what are we looking for when we put interviews together and when we start talking to you, normally on an individual basis? You'll have gone through the group exercises by this stage, and then you get into a room, often with me and with one or two other people. There's two distinct elements to the interview. And over the years, I've noticed that people just make the same mistakes over and over again. And I really hope that I can share some of this stuff with you so you don't. The two elements that we're looking for when we interview, the first element is your technical capability to do the job. And to be honest with you, an awful lot of the time, it's a given. You can all do it. That's not what will differentiate you and put you at the top as far as we're concerned. It's almost a given these days that you're all coming out, you're highly qualified, you're often highly motivated as well. So in some ways it's harder for you guys to differentiate yourselves around your technical competence at that level. And generally you've studied the same type of degree with the same type of content. So you've got a very similar level as to what you offer us at that point. We will explore it, we will dig deep, we will check, but it's harder for you to really differentiate yourselves. The second key area we're going to look at, you'll hear about competency-based interviews an awful lot. It's still the most common method that we use, competency stroke. The way we'll explore that with you is based around typical example questions. Can you give me an example when? You'll be familiar with that and you're probably practicing with them. The way I like to use competency-based questions is that I will ask you to give me an example of, let's say, give me an example of when you solved a creative problem. And you'll have prepared for this and you'll give me the answer. And then I'll say to you, and can you give me another example of that? And that's starting to make you think. And then I'll say, and give me another example of that. And I actually really want to start provoking you into thinking about things that you may not have prepared for. So then I start to get to know you as a person a little bit more, which is ultimately what I want to do. That's what makes the difference. And I think that's what a lot of graduates miss. They don't appreciate that you are all unique, you're all individuals, and you don't get that across well enough to us. And actually, that's often what makes the difference as to whether we want you to join the business or whether we don't. The other key element that we look for is, what's your agenda? So you're just starting your career in most cases. We expect to see people who have a genuine interest and desire to make a difference. So I want you to qualify me as much as I'm qualifying you. Now, I want to give you a little vision, because some of you will be quite visual people. When we run through a selection centre, we have a pile of CVs and interview notes and scorecards that we take when we go into wash-up sessions. And often we'll have photographs in the top right-hand corner, because we can't necessarily remember who's who, and it helps us remember. The people that we really often want to hire are the people where the photograph has fallen off the interview pack and the CV. But when we get to the name, we all know exactly who that person is. That's where you need to get to if you really want to be some of the top talented people that we want to hire. Because we only hire roughly we aim to hire the top 10% of grads that we can attract into our business. So how do you differentiate yourself? How do you get that across to us? It's not by talking about how technically competent you are and what you've studied. It's much more around your desire to make a difference. And what's your agenda? What's your story? Why have you studied what you've studied? And what do you want to use the knowledge that you've started to acquire for? Where do you want to take this? That becomes much more interesting to us. Now, sometimes these interviews can turn into a Q&A type session if you're not careful. And you're sort of, what's the next question? What's the next question? And you just almost expect us to have all the questions, because it's almost set up like that. Again, the candidates that stand out are the ones that just don't play by our script. They'll say things like, they'll start asking us a lot more questions than we were maybe expecting. And the way you control an interview is through the questions. So you must remember that. The way that you get a bit of control over this interview, ask us a lot more questions. And it doesn't necessarily be questions about the business. What I'm also looking for are people who are really interested, obviously in the business and what we do, but are also very interested in our customers. You tend to do a lot of research into SAS, and you'll tell us lots of things about what we've just told you about, really. Well, that's reasonably straightforward. What becomes more interesting to us is if you've done some research into our customers. And our website, for example, is full of case studies. Most large companies have a lot of case studies. Start looking at those case studies. What are they doing? What are we doing with our customers? And what are our customers' expectations? Because ultimately, that's why we want to hire you. You are the future of the business. You are future leaders of the business. You're going to be going into our customers and advising them on how they need to solve some pretty complex problems a lot of the time. So the more aware you are of our customers very early on in this process, the more impact, and that's one of the ways you can differentiate yourselves. So, as far as structuring your answers, the other thing that I've observed over the years is that people tend to ramble, particularly if you're nervous, and you'll use 10 words when one would do. You lose impact, obviously, by answering questions like that. And a very simple method you can use to give your answers some structure is the STAR method. Most of you could well be familiar with it, but I recommend you use it. STAR: situation, task, action, result. So if I ask you to give me an example of something, or I'm asking you a general question, if you can structure your answer back to me using the situation was this, the task that I decided to set myself to was this, the action outcome was, the result that I got was. What that's telling me is, the one, you listen quite carefully, but you talk in quite a structured manner. And sometimes I'm not listening to the content of your answers, but I am listening to how you answer the questions. That tells me a lot about how you think. So I would recommend that you obviously plan and prepare and do some role play with friends and family. So going into these type of discussions cold without any prep. And prep isn't about reading books about how to answer tough interview questions. It's about verbalizing the language that you want to use, that you feel comfortable with. That's what makes the difference. Please focus on you being unique, because obviously you are. But you need to get that across to us more than often we see. Okay, so I've covered how you explain who you are and what you do. The other key element, the question that I often might throw in towards the end of a discussion with you is, who are you? Now, a lot of people have never thought, who am I? And it throws up all sorts of different discussions. And it allows us to explore who you think you are. And how you describe that back to us tells us a lot about you. For some people, they find that question incredibly difficult to answer. And that's okay. There's no right or wrong to this. But for other people, they're very clear about who they are and also what they want to do and where they want to make a difference. And it's those people with their own agenda that really stand out. Okay, so in summary, I would urge you to prepare well. I'd focus on our customers as much as the employer that you're going to meet. I'd focus on answering questions in quite a structured manner. And you need to be able to tell your own story. So why did you choose the degree that you chose, for example? What are the key things you've learned? Not just technically, but as you've grown up through university. Often you will have done part-time work. What did you learn around the people that you worked with a lot of the time? Your interest around how do you want to use analysis? How do you want to use analytics in the future? What do you think the big issues are in the world that might be able to be solved that you might want to be part of? If you have those sort of conversations with us, you set yourself apart from the vast majority of people that we meet. That's really what we're looking for. It's your uniqueness, the people that really want to make a difference. Those are the people that stand out. Okay, we have now run out of time. We'll do some questions and answers for any of the team. Has anybody got any questions for us that we can help you with before we close? Oh, nervous, scary. Okay, we can. Oh.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you do any placement schemes for second students who want to take?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. We do. Normally, it's a 6-week program, Craig, isn't it?
It's usually a summer internship, which is typically 6 weeks long summer. So, yeah, we're the people to contact if you're interested in applying for those roles. Because obviously there are limited spaces, but yeah, by all means. On the stand that we're hosting, we've got some leaflets, so you can give us your details, register your details, and that way we can keep in touch with you that the recruitment or talent acquisition team will be responsible.
I actually went through the recruitment process. I'm the new marketing director at SAS. I've been there 4 weeks, so I've been through all this. A little bit older than you guys.
Are they paid internships?
It depends. Typically,
Expenses, isn't it? Is it expenses?
but it's travel and that sort of thing. So
Good, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, hi.
For the graduate programme, do you have any UCAS requirements for minimum?
No. Well, we don't do it on UCAS points. We will look at the subjects that you've been studying. But no, we don't do a minimum UCAS requirement, no.
in the selection centre that we held this year, we had people that had done degrees, done masters and PhDs, and they're all within the same selection process in theory. So ultimately, for the same job, everybody was in that same bracket and went through the same process for the same job.
Okay. Any other questions for us?